Welcome to Weightlifting Talk. We are back after quite an absence.
Yeah, back on the show. The weightlifting scoop, actually.
Why do I always say that wrong?
I think so many times being on John's show, I'm sure it's ingrained in there. Good show too.
Good show too. Well, I have some kind of news that I want to talk about before we get started with anything else. I had a stroke on at the American Open. It was actually during the American Open, and it happened when the American Open started. And I don't remember too much from the first couple of days of that meet. I woke up in the hospital and ended up in a coma for, I think, 14 days. And then I have just finished with that, went through rehab, and I'm back on Weightlifting Talk.
Yeah, wow, that was quite a thing.
Fairly eventful.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you back, Lynn. It was a long absence, and I know it's been tough for you, and it was tough for us. So,
yeah, it's been a fairly hard road from there back to here, but not too hard. You know, I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky. It could have been much worse, and I've had tons of people tell me, it could have been much worse, and they're exactly right. This was something that was probably building for a long time. I have, learned some things since then, that support that. I probably was very lucky that it happened in Dallas. And at that time at the American Open, I was around good, medical people and this and that. So it actually couldn't have worked out much better for me than happening at the American Open and in that situation in Dallas. So I got super lucky.
Yeah, a lot of people saw you were at the American Open the first couple days. They saw you leave, so they had an idea. Nobody really knew all the details, so it's good to get that out there, because really nobody knew exactly what was going on, and I'm sure people were making up things, and they just because they don't know. So it's good to hear it from you. And
well, it was really tough to know what to say, especially when I didn't know what condition I was going to be in. Once I got to the point of going to rehab and seeing what condition my brain was going to be in. When you don't know what's going to happen there, you don't really know what to tell people, and that was definitely the case. And I didn't know whether I was going to end up being have the mind of like a 3-year-old or be fully functional. Luckily, I can hear the jokes now, but hopefully I'm fully functional. And well on the way to, I feel like, a complete recovery. I definitely, the doctors say the prognosis is that I'll make a complete recovery. And so hopefully it just gets better from here.
Yeah, going through tough times like that, it really makes you appreciate, being able to live a healthy life, and seeing you were telling me that seeing others that were in a tougher situation than you, it just made you appreciate being able to recover.
When I went through rehab, I definitely saw numerous people that were in certain stages of paralysis or brain damage or things like that made me appreciate how slight my injuries were. And so that was good from I don't say good from a mental aspect, but it definitely caused me to appreciate what I have. Definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely tough at the American Open. I think one thing that was able to happen is we did pull together as a team, and we really wanted to put together a good performance.
Well, everybody has mentioned that, how well you guys performed, not only as weightlifters, but also just helping out each other and coming through as a team. And I'm very happy with that and proud of that, I guess you'd say, and that you guys did so well under what had to be difficult circumstances.
Yeah, it was definitely, emotional seeing, we knew that you had gone to the hospital and there wasn't too much information even for us. We didn't know all the details. So
yeah, I didn't know any details really until I was in a coma for a while, about 14 days. And I didn't really start finding out any details until I came out of the coma and got some information myself. And so, that was quite a big blank spot. I do have a big blank spot in my memory that has to do with that. I don't remember the American Open. I feel like I have certain small little snatches, snapshots of memory that are probably from the American Open, but I don't really have any solid memories from that time period until I came out of the coma. There's a good 2-week blank spot there.
Yeah.
And so, well, time to make some new memories, I guess.
Absolutely. The past is the past, and, looking forward to a healthy future.
Yeah.
Now, so I guess, you're making a slow comeback in the coaching. So you've kind of been around and been able to, you came on Wednesday, and that definitely pumped everybody up. We had some pretty big lifts and trying to make you proud. So,
well, I'm definitely proud. I'm proud of you guys. Definitely. You've done great. Again, I say what had to be difficult circumstances, both at the American Open and immediately after. You guys definitely dealt with things as well as I could have hoped. Better than I could have hoped. Which that's a great thing. That's a great thing. Now, it's just a matter of the recovery, which is going to be slow. It's definitely going to be slow. I try not to get my hopes up too much. Trying not to get my hopes up so high that I get disappointed. But as I said, I'm expected to make a full recovery. And so I feel like, in a matter of, I don't know if it'll be 1 month or 3 months, but I feel like I'll be back to the person I used to be and full speed ahead in a matter of time. It will be, the vision aspect is the hardest thing to deal with right now. I don't have near my full vision. And luckily, Lori is kind of acting as my chauffeur. And so she's been the one driving me around, driving me to practice, driving me everywhere for the time being. Hopefully that'll end sometime soon. I'm sure she hopes it'll end sometime soon. It can't be fun to drive here and drive there, and all the going to the doctor's appointments and doctor's visits. I feel like I spend half my days now at a doctor. So that all involved driving into Charlotte and a fair drive from my home. Definitely a 20-30 minute drive from home. And so that gets old quick. But considering the what could have been, I have to feel fairly lucky that I'm able to drive to the doctor. It's definitely has given a new perspective on certain things.
Well, yeah, definitely not having to stay at the doctor overnight.
Yeah.
Is a big
plus. I spent about 2 weeks as an inpatient in Texas, and then that was 2 weeks where when I woke up from the coma and had very, very memories and things like that came back very. Some memories came back very quickly, and some things still haven't all the way come back. But I'm waiting, and it's going to take time. But dealing with all that was kind of a pain in the rear end, and has continued to be to some extent. But I look forward to it resolving itself better and better over time, and definitely I'm happy to be here with you guys now, and the main challenge now is things like, I mentioned the vision, and there's no doubt that I still somewhat get a little bit more confused, especially when it comes to details of my former life and stuff, but just a little bit more easily confused and things like that. But all the doctors say that will change, and again, recovery is expected to be full, so those little things will get easier over time, and they'll all work themselves out, is what I have been told, and I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to have you back. And then today, when this episode's being made, is Max Out Friday, and so probably in about an hour, all the team's going to be in here, going at it and having fun. And I'm sure there's going to be quite.
I can't wait to see it. This will be the first time I've really seen you guys max out in 5 weeks, something like that.
Probably more than that, since before the American
6 weeks.
Open.
Yeah.
You were here on Wednesday, and me and James went heavy in the snatch at least.
I watched you go heavy in the snatch, but as far as an actual Max Out Friday, I haven't seen it for a long time, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
And as far as Max Out Friday, that came along a long time ago. You're kind of the one who started that. I don't know, that's kind of really popular in the U.S. now, just the Max Out Friday in general. So that kind of came from the Wichita Falls team, is that right?
Yeah, it did. It came from Cal Strength, actually. It came from my time at Cal Strength, and we got to picking Friday as the one day a week where we tried for new maxes, and it really caught on, and
yeah, catchy.
got catchy and got more people definitely max out on Friday than used to by a long shot.
Yeah. A lot of people did used to max out on Saturday, but, I like on Friday and then doing the strength day on Saturday, because if you do a strength day Friday or a strength day on Thursday and then try to max out on Saturday, you're pretty tired, so.
Yeah.
But, so, James, you saw a pretty cool video. Where this I don't know, she was from Colombia, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe a Colombian lifter, and she was doing this little drill to help with jerks, and it was kind of neat. She had a bunch of plates stacked up, and one in front of her and one behind, a little bit offset, so where she would put her feet on top of the plates in the jerk position. So she'd have the bar in the front rack position, and then she'd do her dip drive and throw the bar up. And then instead of just doing the normal split, she would do her split and she would land on top of these plates. Just like a raised, I don't know, it might have been a half a foot in this video. And I just thought it was kind of neat. I actually commented and I tagged Travis, and then I said, "This looks interesting. Is this something we could talk about on the weightlifting scoop?"
It's kind of hard to understand without seeing the video to do in words, but we're going to try to make a video of us doing this and trying it out just because it seems interesting. You definitely have to bend your back knee to get onto the plates. So you're jumping from the floor onto the plates when you're doing the jerk. And I think it would help with people who have a problem pushing themselves forward in the jerk and not bending the back knee. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I guess really help with planting the feet downward instead of really just trying to split as far as you can. Also, something else I thought was interesting, like since you're going up, I think it really puts a good emphasis on the upward drive of the jerk. So some people that are just trying to sneak under it or anything, but you really kind of throwing the ball high.
We have several lifters that have that problem, so it'll be good, very helpful to even some of our lifters. Or it would be. It seems like it would be very helpful to them. I wonder, do you think that there would be any possibility of people planting the foot wrong and maybe ending up with their knee coming out from under them or something?
That's what I thought about, like when I was watching the video, because the girl was actually, she was quite rehearsed at this, so she had some good experience, but the plates were pretty high, and I just imagine, like, what if you missed your foot on that plate?
I'm sure you'd want to start out just one plate high and just get used to it and slowly work your way up. It's not something you'd want to jump into.
Yeah, take it slow.
But there's definitely some exercises that should be a tiny portion of training. So I want to emphasize that.
And light, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, she just had
light.
the bar on this video. Yeah. I can't imagine. Because you couldn't drop the weight after you were done jerking it, because you're got all these plates in the way.
So last week I had done a blog series on what it was like a typical week at Muscle Driver on the weightliftingscoop.com. And then this week I'm kind of doing a series. It may be longer than a week. I might not do one every day, but kind of forgotten exercises or obscure exercises. And so this is one of them that we're going to go over. And it's very obscure. I've never seen it, but I do think it could be of benefit. But again, I want to emphasize, not a major portion of training, just something that you would do every once in a while to fix a very particular issue.
Yeah, so...
it sounds good.
Yeah. Keep an eye out on the weightliftingscoop.com and watch for that blog series and those videos as this develops.
The one that we put on there today, and Glenn, you didn't see this, so I don't know. You've probably seen this exercise before, but something that Don had Caleb doing was he was doing jerks, but the weight was spaced on the outside of the collars, so it wasn't pushed into the collars.
Yeah.
In order to get more oscillation on the bar.
With a lighter weight.
Right. So you kind of get the same oscillation as you would with about 210 kilos with 140 kilos. And I thought that was pretty interesting because my main issue in the jerk is when it gets heavy, being able to hold it when the oscillation comes down. So the bar kind of crashes on me, and then that's when I miss jerks. It's not actually driving heavy weights high.
Well, I remember doing a little bit of that at Cal Strength with either Rob or one of the other younger guys that lifted there for a while. I don't think we never. Well, as we've said here recently, I mean, I don't think that it was a major exercise, but it was just something that we kind of tried out in order to fix a problem. And I don't think we did it that much or we went very far with it, but we tried it in order to try to get more oscillation on the bar. And, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. It may help.
I just thought it would be interesting because obviously, I don't know what the weight is, maybe 185 and higher. There's a different oscillation than below 185. So in order to teach yourself the timing of jerks at 200 kilos, say.
Yeah.
You could kind of replicate that and work the timing without actually having to do 200 out of the racks multiple times a month. And the Russians do some work with the collars spaced further. And I've seen that on videos before, and this would seem to be about the same thing. Yeah, that's
so
where
it should be useful.
Caleb said that Don was having him do it recently. However, he did see it in a video that David Riggert was coaching in some time ago, and he had tried it in the past. I had never seen that exercise until today, and I was kind of blown away because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, this is one of the hard things for me is catching the oscillation correctly at heavy weights. So I'm kind of hit or miss once it crosses over 200 kilos. And I have jerked 200 kilos out of the racks a handful of times, but it's definitely not consistent, and it's not because of the weight when I'm fresh. So.
And it's not because you're not strong enough. I get the feeling when I've watched you do heavy jerks that if you could catch it just a fraction of an inch low and get it on your triceps good and correctly, you could probably jerk 20 more kilos or 30 more kilos. So it's, it's probably a useful exercise.
Yeah, so definitely some things that we'll be putting out there. Not something that you would necessarily want to do when you're maybe in a morning session for us. Caleb was doing this, but he was the only one. working on a particular issue. So not something you want to do in the competition phase, but potentially something you guys could toy around with further out from competition.
Definitely.
Yeah, and something else to mention about that, like the competition phase, even the way you load the bar, like for me, I can really start telling oscillation from like 160 up on the clean. Like if I'm coming into a competition, I'll always put red plates first and try to load it as close to the competition bar as possible, just so that oscillation will be similar.
That's a good idea, and I don't think most people pay enough attention to that, because a 140 clean feels a hell of a lot different than a 160 or 170 clean.
Yeah.
It really does.
And if you load it up with a bunch of 15s, it's going to feel different than if you optimize it and put those, put the red ones and the blue ones on.
And also those econ plates where they're a little bit wider. Those are always kind of interesting if you ever switch back and forth between them, because you put those on, you put 140 on, again, it feels like 180 or something because the oscillation is so much more, just because the weight's loaded wide.
I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, but do you think that it makes that much difference if you tighten your collars?
Sometimes if you put the weights on super tight, sometimes the bar doesn't spin quite as freely, but for the most part, if you have a brand new competition bar, it should spin pretty freely anyway.
Well, the reason I asked about that is because John North is infamous for believing that if you tighten the collars on a competition set, it just changes the game completely. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think I think he's wrong about that, and I don't think it makes that much difference to have tight collars or not tight collars. But he certainly believes it, so,
Yeah, I mean, if you mentally believe it, then it's nice to get some competition collars and train like that, so that when you get to the competition, you felt it.
Yeah.
And
maybe he's just smoking crack, and it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. I don't know. But yeah, if you believe it, then it's probably going to work out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Some plates, I think it's DHS plates. I'm not 100% sure about this, but some of them seem like they fit so tight onto the bar.
USACA used to be
USACA.
famous for doing that. And I don't know if their newer plates really have that issue, but USACAs are the king of fitting so tightly on the bar that they're
hard to get on there.
They're hard to get on there, and they can and sometimes do interfere with the normal movement of the bar.
Yeah.
We had like a York barbell and some USACA plates and at my old gym, and they wouldn't fit on the York barbell. And so somebody was like, "Why don't they fit on there?" And I was like, "Well, it's a male and a female. It's a Japanese female."
Oh God. Yeah, well, we had the same thing back in Wichita Falls. We had a USACA set that was actually had come from the '96 Olympics, and it had incredibly tight fitting plates, and we couldn't use it with the normal plates or normal plates or collars or whatever because of the tight fit.
Yeah.
So that so the excuse that people were coming up with when the Texas method was being created, why are you going light? The plates don't fit on here. Was that it?
Well, yeah, you just, solve all those problems by buying a Pendlay bar and being done with it.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, we've gotten some new bars down in the gym recently, so I guess we're finally everything's been started to be made in house as far as the barbells go in the past year. Is that right?
I think it's a little over a year, but yeah.
So we had some of the older ones sprinkled in, but now we have all the new ones that are that were purely made here, and they're definitely nice. They have a little thicker knurling, but not too thick. You don't want to train on a bar that's so gnarly that it tears up your shins and hands all the time.
Yeah.
But it definitely has slightly more grip than the old bars did, and like I'm talking about bars from 2 years ago, and
something that's very difficult to do is to get the knurl correct on a bar to have the correct feel. I mean, that's not easy because you're talking about, hundredths or thousandths of an inch when it comes to, shaving the knurl and everything. And that's a difficult feel to achieve.
Yeah.
I think we do a pretty decent job, but it's not an easy thing to get a bar right.
One thing that I notice is that when you're snatching on a bar that has a little bit more narrow than a completely smooth bar, it's easier to snatch without straps for sure. Because I was snatching on like a very smooth bar.
Because your hands slide on the bar?
A little bit, yeah. My hands were sliding on the bar, even with chalk, on the very smooth bar. So then I kind of started training on one of the ones that had a little bit more knurling, and it made it a lot closer to competition for me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I rarely use straps, and I have trouble on a smooth bar.
Because you have gorilla hands.
Yep, that's what I'm going for.
Weightlifting straps, you mean my fingers?
Yeah.
That was a pretty good...
Oh, yeah, overly manly man.
Yeah, those are definitely funny.
What was another one? Tabasco? You mean my eye drops?
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
No.
No matter how manly you are, that is not a good idea, trust me.
Yeah.
Speaking of hot sauce...
The only worse thing than that is getting dip in your eye.
No, never had that.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky and smart. I think ideally we wouldn't be walking around spitting, with dip, but it does irritate your eyes.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time.
Never happened to me.
It's been a long time since I've had a
never
dip
say
in,
never.
But I mean, even if you have a dip in and it gets on your tongue, it's like very sharp on your tongue and burns a good bit. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have another fairly unrelated announcement. Is I'm going to stop dipping.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to stop dipping.
Now, how long have you been dipping? That's been a long time. That's
probably 15 plus years.
Wow.
And basically it's just because of the stroke and the increase in blood pressure and this and that and the other. And I've finally, this is kind of funny actually. When I first came out of the coma, the first thing I wanted was a dip. I was like,
I bet you had some crazy withdrawals going on with it.
Well, I feel like I probably missed that because the main withdrawals I went through was when I was actually still in the coma.
Yeah.
So I was off in dreamland somewhere, and
Yeah.
I wasn't really aware of it. But when I came out, boy, I wanted to dip something fierce, But since then, I have, some new concern for my health and blood pressure and things like that. I've decided that I've got to stop, and it's not going to be easy. But it's definitely not going to be easy. I've gotten some of the nicotine gum and some things like that, and started the process of stopping. I'm hopefully in another week or two, you won't see me dip it anymore.
Wow.
And I have to announce that so you can hold me accountable. because definitely that's a good idea for me to not do it, especially having had a stroke and things like that. I shouldn't be dipping, and you guys are welcome to yell at me if I fall on that measure.
Yeah.
Well, any of you guys listening out there, yell at him if you see him with a dip. So.
Well, or for that matter, the whole dipping thing, being from Texas and having dipped for the majority of my life, I get it. Dipping is fun and very enjoyable for a lot of people, but it's really not a good idea from the aspect of your health. It raises your blood pressure like crazy, and it's just not good for you.
I didn't know. Is it nicotine that raises your blood pressure?
Nicotine, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. So.
Yeah, the nicotine raises your blood pressure. Dip actually delivers more nicotine than almost any other form of tobacco. You get a lot more nicotine in a dip than you have when you smoke or anything like that. So all the negative aspects of smoking are double with dipping.
I guess except for the lungs. But
except for the lungs.
Yeah.
Of course you can have cancer of the mouth and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not good. We don't want to encourage that, but I need to stop, and I'm pretty motivated to stop. Have as anybody that has just survived a stroke would be. I'm motivated to do some things to change, aspects of my health like that. And so I'm going to stop dipping, and you guys they're listening, whatever. If you see me dipping in the next 2 or 3 weeks, somebody needs to yell at me or hit me with a 2x4 or something.
I don't know if hitting you with a 2x4 would be a good idea.
Well, that might help. You never know.
I'll keep one by just in case.
You know what James was worried about? He said, "Did they shave his beard?"
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, believe it or not, they didn't ever shave my beard. And when I came out of rehab, I had quite the long growth going on. I had let my neck hair and all that beard hair grow, for 3 weeks. And it was pretty dang long. It was curling around and everything. And so, when I got back to Carolina and went to Supercuts, the girl had a major job on her hands, and Lori went with me to supervise, what got cut, because I really at that time I saw even worse than I do now. I feel like my lips to God's ears, I hope, but I feel like I'm starting to see some progress on the eyes and seeing. I don't think there's nothing revolutionary, but I really felt like, when I first got out, that I just basically saw, shadows, and that's all I could see. And especially with good lighting situations, I feel like I can see a little better now. Not a lot, but there's hope. And, so when I first got back, Lori was my eyes, and she was the one who supervised my haircuts, so she came to Supercuts with me and supervised the trimming of the beard. And I was pretty adamant that you don't cut it too short, don't trim it all the way off or anything. Just trim the neck hair and some things like that, and have me looking human, But that was my trim.
Yeah, she was trying to get it a little shorter than you wanted it, but
yeah.
Well,
you look like you had quite the trim.
Yeah, quite the trim.
Well, we all thought that would happen to Tom way before it happened to you.
Well, yeah, they had a slight bet going. It was who's going to trim their beard first. James won by like 3 months, but
yeah. So it got pretty wild there. Then the deciding factor, which we talked about on the last show, was I caught my beard in the clean.
Oh God!
And so we had to shut that down.
That had to hurt.
It's right on the underneath my chin part that got it too, and that's just like extra sensitive down there. You could pull on the sides and I'd be all right, but man, right under the chin.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Yeah, it got me good.
That's like underarms right there.
Yeah.
It's just friggin' sensitive.
I let a little kid pull on my beard one time. That was a bad idea. It was about as bad as that. Catching it clean was about as bad as a little kid going up and expect him to just do a little tug, and that kid yanked on my beard.
Little kids develop grip strength really early.
Little kids
crazy.
can be fierce too.
Yeah, well, they just don't. They don't have any concept of pain yet, so they don't understand that they can.
Totally unexpected. You think they're just going to give you a little tug or something, and they can just haul off.
Yeah,
haul off and go to town.
Yeah, you watch those Funniest Home videos of all the kids accidentally punching or kicking the dad and the nads. Man, these kids are rough. You just need to be careful around kids.
Well, maybe they actually know what they're doing and they know they can get away with it.
Well, there's probably a sociological experiment in there somewhere.
That would be even worse.
Yeah.
But I guess we got to start wrapping up. It's getting late. We're going to be training here in about 15 minutes. So any last things you guys want to talk about?
Not really. We talked about most of what I wanted to talk about early in the podcast, but wish me luck on the chewing thing and everything, and go from there.
Yeah, well, we're definitely glad to see you back here in
I'm glad to be back
in the Muscle Driver gym. It's great. It's just great to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone out there is happy to hear your voice, and definitely, the first time you called me after all this happened, I was, just happy to hear your voice. It had been a long time. Here you're doing well, and things are coming along. So
people having Glenn Pendlay withdrawals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the scoop on Glenn, and so now you guys know the real story, and we'll be hopefully he'll be back coaching on a regular basis soon, and check out the blog series on the weightliftingscoop.com called Forgotten Exercises, and the Scoop on Muscle Driver, which is what I did last week, and tweet us any questions. Hopefully, I think Glenn will be back on the show pretty regularly. So,
yeah, and I promise, folks, I have really not done a lot of answering emails and stuff for the past several months, and for very understandable reasons, I think. But I promise to get back to answering people's emails and things like that in the near future as we go along. I'm always happy to hear the emails from lifters talking about how you're doing and how, PRs and this and that. And I will be responding again going forward.
Well, great. We'll see you guys next week.